Welcome back, everybody. The funeral service for the late minister in the presidency, Jackson Mthembu, will be held at the Sacred Heart Roman Catholic Church in Ackerville, Emalahleni in Mpumalanga this morning. Mthembu succumbed to COVID-19 related complications in hospital on Thursday. The service is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. and President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the eulogy. Let's now cross live to our reporter in Emalahleni, Samkele Maseko. Samkele, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live. Just briefly take us through Mthembu's life in Emalahleni in Mpumalanga and what Mthembu meant to the community that he grew up and lived in.
Jackson Mthembu, just like Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, the late, just like the late Stolande Saaparangwe Baba Ndrumlangeni, lived amongst the people here in Emalahleni. Post-1994, when many leaders of our country saw greener pastures in government and decided to leave the rural areas where they were living from and also leave the townships where they were residing with the people, Jackson Mthembu stayed amongst the people. As you've seen during the course of the week, this is his home. He stayed here right up until his final breath. When the governing party spoke about a social distance between its leaders and the people that they are leading, they were not speaking about this metal worker who hails from the working class of this country, who hails from the left of the governing party. This leader whom till his last breath there was no particular corruption scandal against his name. You've heard many speakers during the course of the week speaking about how ethical Jackson Mthembu was, how he spoke out against corruption. You did hear those whom are seemingly charged with allegations of corruption, some who also hail from this province, like Bongani Bongo, saying that he had various engagements with the late Mvelase on the allegations that he is facing. He spoke sternly and strongly against issues of corruption. Jackson Mthembu would not be found in what is dubbed the sins of incumbency that have engulfed those in power today. Him till his last breath was amongst the people. Also, he took his last breath in a public facility. One of the tweets that totally struck me of Jackson Mthembu was one when one of the people on that particular platform spoke out against politicians. Jackson Mthembu responded saying, "They are humans too." When he was diagnosed with this particular virus of COVID-19, which he was the face of in speaking that people should wear their masks, people should sanitize in order to protect themselves from this invincible enemy. So South Africans have to take a leaf that the face of this fight of COVID-19 has departed the land of the living and lived amongst the people. When this particular community of Ackerville here in Emalahleni was load shed, when they had no water, when they were faced with issues of potholes, he too was affected.
Samkele, that so many South Africans are now starting to take this virus seriously when they see big names, taking the fall and big names dying as a result of this particular pandemic. Now, the entire nation, Samkele, is united in their firm belief of what an incredible man of unbelievable work ethic was. And even the ANC Deputy Secretary General, Jessit Water, saying that he died with his boots on, working for his country.
Jackson Mthembu indeed died with his boots on, working for the people. I've seen him particularly in times leading up to the ANC's 54th National Conference in Nasrec, when he was locked inside a venue in Enanda in the eThekwini region, when those whom were supporting Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and who were strong supporters of former President Jacob Zuma wanted to win that particular branch general meeting at all cost. Reinforcements of police had to be called. You'd find Jackson Mthembu standing in the dusty streets of Pietermaritzburg on an ordinary day, on a day when it was not a day of campaigns for the governing party, and he would be out handing out pamphlets of the governing party. We'd come to the history of Jackson Mthembu here in Mpumalanga with the late Jimmy Mushala, who was brutally gunned down during the construction of the Mbombela Stadium. Jimmy Mushala and Jackson Mthembu were known as the encyclopedias of local government, particularly here in this province. You look at the role he played in the then Eastern Transvaal region of the African National Congress back then, in that regional executive committee that was elected here, which was led by its regional chairperson, Matthew Sposa, which had the likes of Joseph Che Masilela as its regional secretary, and the likes of Nka Shabangu, a revered MK combatant, as its treasurer general. Jackson Mthembu, in that 1993-1994 regional conference, received the highest number of votes in that regional conference, and that spoke to the accolades and the responsibilities and the respect that many people had of Jackson Mthembu from his days in the predecessor of the National Union of Mine Workers, which is the National Metal Workers Union of South Africa, which Jackson Mthembu was the senior sub-steward at the Highveld Steel Corporation, where he worked at, and really rose up the ranks of that particular union, which linked up to the left-Leninism of the politics of Jackson Mthembu. You go to the letter that was released by his mentee, Zizi Kodwa, the Deputy Minister of State Security and Intelligence, and how he says that he's lost a mentor in Jackson Mthembu, who taught him a lot about political communication, which was something that was espoused to the likes of Smart Ngonyama, the former spokesperson of the African National Congress. So Jackson Mthembu also played a pivotal role in youth development, particularly in the space of political communication. You look at the likes of the media liaison officer in the office of the national chairperson of the ANC and the Minister of Mineral Resources, Nathi Shabangu, who came through the hands of Jackson Mthembu. You look at the likes of Millicent Matlow, who also works for Nomvula Mokonyane, now in the office of Jeff Makubu in Johannesburg. So Jackson Mthembu imparted a wealth of knowledge of political communication to the younger generation within the African National Congress in the communication space. You look at his spokesperson, Nodnqaba Mushaul, who was also with him when he was still the chief whip in the National Assembly, who was also the spokesperson of the ANC's caucus in the National Assembly. That's the role that Jackson Mthembu played later on in his life in the political communication space. You look at how Zizi Kodwa came out and said that it was a discussion he had with the late Baba Umvelase when he was leaving Luthuli House and they had just become members of parliament in 2014. It was a discussion he had with Jackson Mthembu, who told him that perhaps it's time that he went and took up the spokesperson role at Luthuli House, which made it easier for Zizi Kodwa to accept the offer once the then Secretary General of the African National Congress, Samson Gwede Mantashe, had approached him. You look at the likes of Kusala Tiko, who've also come up in the ranks of political communication in the hands of Jackson Mthembu, who's on a leave of absence as the spokesperson of President Cyril Ramaphosa, and the likes of Keith Khoza. So Jackson Mthembu played a pivotal role not only in addressing issues of the poverty, the plight, and the inequality of the people of South Africa are facing, and this community of Mpumalanga. Back to you in studio.
All right, Samkele, thank you so much. We'll touch base with you a little later on as the funeral service will get underway. That was a reporter there, Samkele Maseko, speaking to us live from Emalahleni in Mpumalanga.